Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Apa kabar pemirsa di rumah? Kembali lagi saat ini dalam program Ketika Hidayah Menyapa, sebuah program yang mengulas tentang perjalanan seorang manusia dalam berhijrah ataupun menemukan cahaya Islam, dengan kata lain menjadi seorang mualaf. Baiklah pemirsa, langsung saja kita menuju ke kediaman beliau. Seorang sahabat saya, saudara baru saya dalam Islam, yang juga seorang ekspatriat asal Inggris. Langsung saja kita sapa.
I'm from a small town back in England, back in the UK, and I've been working here for a while now in Indonesia. It's fantastic here, I love it. It's hot, but I like it, it's great. I've been teaching English for a while now.
Yeah.
When I came here, it was my first time teaching, so it was a little nerve-wracking to start with. I started working here about 3 years ago. I used to work back in the UK in a warehouse, postal. All my family come from the same area. They're all quite old-fashioned in ways. We were raised on a farm, which was lovely, it's fantastic. So we were raised in a farming family, a working family. Yeah. I wasn't actually, I was agnostic, I think is the best way to describe what I was, yeah. Where, yeah, we did go to church, but only for events, only for weddings, funerals, things like this. But I wasn't completely atheist. I think I was agnostic. I always had thoughts about it. I was always interested, but I didn't ever push it to find out what happened until back when I was in school. Obviously I'd done a little, but not much at all. So it wasn't then. It was when I met a person online. We'd been talking, it was from 2009 we started to speak, and this person who lived here in Indonesia, Muslim like most people here, and to start with we were just talking about like bands, music, movies, the usual things, and then I found out about Islam, and I thought it was interesting, the history of it, everything about it, and I was just asking lots and lots of questions, and then she explained as best as possible everything that she could, everything that I asked, and I just became more and more interested in it. There wasn't anything that big to start with. I just found it really interesting to start with, it the way it explained things. I think it is a religion of peace and respect. That's what it's supposed to be about. It's about working peacefully with other people, not just Muslims, but everybody, being as peaceful as possible, leaving anger aside, ignoring all of that. I don't think that has a place in Islam, and respecting everybody and everything. The Western media, most of them don't understand Islam at all. They only see anything that happens which is bad. They don't see everything which is positive and good. So yeah, that's the problem. No, it wasn't just the one thing. I think there was a few things, but first of all, it was how Islam explained everything, like the world around us, the human body, space, and the stars. It explained things. That was quite a big thing, and then that kind of pushed me along further. But it wasn't quite enough. It just kept pushing me and pushing me. The more I researched and read about it, and then one day I just thought and realized it was already after I gave up like alcohol and pork. I'd stopped that a long time before. It was quite rare anyway. I drank or ate any pork of any kind, so I thought it's best just to stop that now. But then I realized later on that if I did want to drink some alcohol, a beer or have some bacon, that I was afraid that I would anger God, Allah. And when I realized that, really think like, this is wrong. Like, all the way from like 16, 18 up, I was always drinking alcohol, not every weekend, but most weekends, yeah. We go out on the weekends, we drink. It's the average normal thing in the UK. But yeah, after I started learning about Islam, I did realize it's wrong. And I thought if I did happen to drink it, I'd regret it afterwards, and I'd be afraid of what would happen. Yeah, it's all about the culture, it's about everything around you. Yeah, alcohol is everywhere. Yeah. So yeah, you're raised into it. One morning, I think, when I was working in the warehouse, because my job didn't use a lot of thought. There's a lot of lifting and working, so I have lots of time to think. And I was just thinking about this, and if I made a mistake, the repercussions of what would happen, and the fact that I was afraid of Allah if I'd done something wrong. To start with, I did learn a lot online. I used the internet a lot. And then I met, well, of course, there was my wife now. That was the first person I spoke to. She helped as much as possible. But then I found a man, he used to live in the same area as me back in the UK. And he'd become Muslim quite a long time ago. And he's living in Saudi Arabia now. And he's learned a lot about Islam over his life. And because he was from the same place as me, it was quite easy for us to speak. So, and we met as well online, and we spoke a lot. He answered a lot of my questions, and after a while he came to visit in the UK, and we spoke a lot again. He introduced me to some other people in the UK, some Muslims. I went to my first mosque. Everybody was fantastic. So yeah, the main two people, him and my wife. I'd spoken to Alona about like what the process is, what it is I have to do. And then I'd spoke to my friend as well, who was living abroad at the time, but he came to the UK to visit. He explained everything. He told me he'd help. So we went up to Bristol in the UK, we went to a mosque. We met lots of nice people, and they explained everything else as well. But the first time I spoke my Shahada, I was on my own. So I thought it was the right time, and there wasn't anybody there, so I spoke it on my own, and that's when I really started to. That was early 2010. That was back in the UK. Hadn't been here then. I came to Indonesia in 2010, but that was later on. At that time, I hadn't been here yet, so I'd only been in the UK. No, well, the first time it was on my own, so it was just at my home. I just spoke it myself. There was no other people, there was no imam, but I just wanted to speak it for myself. It kind of like it was only for me to really, the first piece, step. In the area I'm from, which is right in the bottom of the UK in the south, there isn't really any people you can talk to. There is one small mosque, which was about maybe half an hour to an hour away from my home. And apart from that, the next nearest mosque is a long, long way. So it wasn't as if there was anybody I could go and speak to. Only online, of course. Yeah, that was the first moment when I thought, right, this is it, this. And then the first time I'd done it officially, I had it all recorded, was before, what was that, 2010 as well, but later on. Muslim friend had come from Arabia to the UK to visit. He's the one who introduced me to. He helped a lot. He took me to an Islamic bookstore, so I got some books, lots of things to learn about Islam. I went to my first mosque. He introduced me to some people there. It's a place he lived in the past, so he knew quite a lot of the people. Once I'd been welcomed by everybody, it felt really good, nice. It was fantastic. I was always happy, always smiling. It was for a long time, kind of like my life was just boring and plain, just working, living. There wasn't really a lot happening. But then this felt as if there was a big step up. It was really a big thing happening. So I was really happy about it. It was fantastic. In my life, there wasn't a major impact in my life to start with, because I was still living in the UK. I still had to work and do everything. But really the only impacts were I was having to learn to pray, maybe 6 months to learn all the words, everything I had to say, all the Arabic that was needed. The first year as well, 2010, I was fasting in the first year in the UK. So of course that was a big change. So because it was only me. I was in the UK, but odd at first because I was the only one. But it made sense as well. It was ready in my own place. Yeah, I'd left living with my parents quite a long time before. So I'd been in my own place for a long time. Group for the band, we both liked the same band, Linkin Park. Because of that, we started speaking, and it ended up we were speaking every day. So that led on, talking every day as much as possible. Because I came into Islam in 2010. We had started speaking in 2009. That's the reason I was introduced to Islam. That's how I started learning about it. But then, yeah, to start with, we were only friends, just talking a lot. But then I came to Indonesia in the end. We thought we had to meet. We've been talking for a long time. So I came here for a trip, a holiday. We were married at their parents' house, 2012. Yeah, they were all really happy about it. They of course thought it was a bit odd at first, a bit strange, because for most people this doesn't happen. But yeah, everybody was happy and positive about it and asked lots of questions, like whys and hows. I maybe got a few words and comments from people I work with, but that's not like mates or friends. They were people I work with, but again, they were just having a joke. They weren't being serious about it. Well, to start with, it was the same as usual. It was work, it was hobbies. But also, after I'd met my friend in Bristol, Abdullah Hood, he offered to help me go to Mecca for the first time. And I wasn't earning a lot, so to pay for it within the short space of time would have been really hard, but he offered to help with everything, which was fantastic of him, because this was the first time we'd met. To start with, when I landed there, it was new and strange, and I was a bit nervous, of course. But then, yeah, once I got into Mecca, I met my friend who were there waiting for me. And then the first thing we done, we went to Great Mosque, and we went there. That was the first thing we done. And yeah, the first time I walked down the steps into the opening of the Kaaba was quite an amazing, overwhelmed, and maybe you could say very happy, emotional time. He lived not that far. He's British, but because of work he'd moved to Saudi Arabia quite a long time before, in the 1990s I believe, Saudi Arabia for a long time. So he knows the area. He'd been to Mecca and Medina lots of times. So yeah, he helped a lot. He was probably the biggest help. And yeah, there was a few things, like to pray 5 times a day. In the morning it was easy, it was fine actually, because I was up and away for work. I'd just wake up like an hour earlier. Then, because of my schedule at work, it wasn't all that hard to pray, because I'd work early in the morning, then I'd go back home. So I had time for a lot of the prayers. But in the evening, Maghrib and Isha, I'd have to pray a bit late because it was after work. But overall, it wasn't that bad. It was okay. The hardest thing was just learning the Arabic. It took time. It took a few months. I've only got one verse which I use while I pray at the moment. When I pray, it just kind of rolls off. I remember it as I pray. For some reason, it's really easy as I pray, but if I don't pray, I always find it hard to remember, which is awkward. My wife can read the Arabic, so she can help me a bit. I have a book I received from a friend which can help me read, but at the moment that's about it. So the learning isn't that fast at the minute. It's a bit slow. I've not been to any. Well, I've been to a few, but not that many talks and speeches about Islam and the learnings of it. But at the moment, I'm only learning from either online or a few books. I don't think I've got a favourite book. No, I don't think there's one. There's a few books which I look at occasionally and read, but I think most of the time I look online for any answers that I'm looking for. I think in the UK, if you're living in a big place like London, Birmingham, you have lots of other Muslims around you, but it's not a Muslim country. But I think it's okay. But the area I'm from is a farming area. I was the only Muslim I knew, so it's not hard exactly, but it's not as easy as it is here. You can't just go down the street to a mosque. It's not as easy as that. But here in Indonesia, everybody's welcoming and friendly. Azan every day helps to remind you of the times, whereas in the UK there's not. You always have to check the times and make sure you're up to date. There's a few people I know in Bristol which are Muslims. They work in like the Islam. They're from Africa. They've moved to the UK for. It is a little easier in Indonesia because of the times. In the UK it's longer. I think you start fasting at around 4 in the morning. You break fasting at around, I think at the moment, 8:30 or 9 o'clock at night. So it's much longer. And because when I was fasting in the UK, it was only me, I was the only one. That made it a bit harder again as well, where everybody else was eating and drinking. I would occasionally visit family or my parents, but yeah, most of the time I was in my own place for break fasting. They really know right words, but yeah, they'd say like happy break fasting or happy Eid maybe. That's about it, but I think now they might have learned some more over time. Hopes for the future really for my wife. We have a boy now, a son. We're just all hoping that we're happy, we have an easy enough life, not too stressful, and yeah, just hoping for a better life, a nice life, and to be as good and decent at people as possible. So, like, I've been to Mecca on my own, but to be there with my wife and my son, that would be the ultimate dream, inshallah. Really just try to be open-minded. I've had a lot of maybe bad looks or people who don't understand. I have ink and tattoos on my arm. People think you're not allowed to in Islam. You need to be more open-minded. It's whatever happens before you're a Muslim is gone. It doesn't matter what that is. So as long as a person becomes Muslim and is happy about it and puts his effort in, that's all that matters.
Ikhwani fillah rahimakumullah, semoga kisah dari narasumber tadi bisa memberi manfaat bagi ikhtiar kita untuk selalu mendekatkan diri kepada Allah, juga memberi suntikan semangat serta inspirasi dalam meningkatkan kualitas iman serta takwa kita. Nah sobat fillah yang semoga selalu dalam lindungan Allah, sebelum perjumpaan kita kali ini saya akhiri, seperti biasa saya mohon agar sobat sudi memberi dukungan supaya channel kami ini dapat terus bertahan dan terus menyajikan konten-konten Islami. Caranya cukup dengan like video ini, aktifkan notifikasi agar sobat tidak ketinggalan informasi ketika video terbaru kami ditayangkan. Kemudian share video ini melalui berbagai akun media sosial yang sobat miliki. Dan jangan lupa untuk menuliskan komentar tentang video yang baru saja kita saksikan. Atas keikhlasan sobat dalam mendukung kami, saya mengucapkan jazakumullah khairan katsiran. Mohon maaf atas segala kekurangan. Sampai bertemu kembali pada video berikutnya. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.